are live. Welcome back to the On3 podcast, everyone. My name is Salvi, your co-host, and I have my co-host with me, Naveed. And today we actually have another awesome guest with us. So this is what it says on her website. She's a creative entrepreneur living and working downtown Toronto in her multi-disciplinary business in interior design, social media, brand partnerships, and peer mentoring. Her name is Sabrina Colosimo, right?
Yes.
Did I get that right?
Yes.
Welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Hi. Great to be here.
Awesome. Thanks for coming down. So yeah, as I mentioned, we looked up your website.
Yeah.
And you do a lot.
I do.
And which is awesome because we're like, okay, we got to do like 1/10 of what you do to feel a bit fulfilled in life.
Yeah, and just to kind of understand.
I was just talking to a colleague about this though, and she was lauding me as well, saying like, you know, you're doing such a good job of doing the multidisciplinary thing, and I think you should teach a course about that, like the difference between doing several things that you love and that you're passionate about and that you're good at, and the difference between like just reaching for that next shiny object all the time. So because she's like, there is a difference, and you are doing it elegantly. Like you've decided to tear away pieces of your business that aren't working. You kept ones that are working, but you're still open to adding more segments. But you seem to be doing it in an intelligent way. And I was like, oh, I'm flattered. I didn't even really have that 30,000 foot view to see like that I was actually doing that. Yeah, so it's a weird way to live. Like every day is a little bit different. I'm always switching gears, and it's but I'm so used to it now. This is just like my life. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, it's definitely inspiring looking at, I mean, we're going to get into like how you got to where you are. But if you had to, I guess, boil it down into maybe a core of what you do, what would that be?
I think it's like two different things. Brand development for small businesses and brands. So like influencer work, content creation, mentorship. I facilitate networking events at the Loft. Like we do headshots for small business owners. You know, that sort of like brand development for small businesses. And then I do have that knapsack of skills that is in the interior design basket. And that's just something that I've had for years, and so I utilize it because why not? Like I already have all this experience. I might as well, I can sell my interior design services, or I just love vintage pieces, so I curate and sell vintage furniture. And that's my like very specific creative outlet. But I feel like if I had to pick like to do only one, it's the stuff with the small businesses and the brands that really excites me. Yeah.
Awesome. I think the word I saw you use a few times was creative entrepreneur.
Yes. Right.
That was very interesting for me because I think entrepreneurs in general, you got to be creative, but you're more in the like create arts.
Yeah.
Create. Your page very artistic. Anything you touch, art is I find a big focus.
Yes.
In that. And is that kind of your outlet? Because a lot of people have like separate creative outlets, but for you, I feel like maybe that is your outlet.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny when people ask me, like, what do you like to do when you're not working? And I'm like, what does that even mean? I don't even know. Like, my life and my business is so woven together that it is my outlet. It is just my way of existing. And I get so proud when I can, like, when these pieces can monetize. Like, I love it. Although I am creative, like I'm 100% capitalist. Like if I can monetize something, I'm like, game on, let's do it, right? I came from an entrepreneurial family. My dad ran his own business for years, so that's like all I know. And I get very excited about making a dollar.
That's definitely important.
Yeah.
Especially living in Toronto.
Yes,
So I guess let's talk a bit about that, the beginnings of your entrepreneurial route. How did it start, or where did it start?
Where did it start? Yeah, my dad had a kitchen and bath and interior design business for years. I went to school for philosophy. Lo and behold, you don't get jobs with philosophy. I didn't know that. And no, I'm kidding. But as I was always working in the family business, and then I realized, I think like being an entrepreneur, like running your own business, I think this matches my my skill set, like how I show up in the world, because every day is a little bit different, and I'm doing marketing, and I'm doing buying, and I'm doing hiring and designing the showroom, and I was like, like this speaks to me. And it wasn't that I was in love with interiors. It was that I was in love with being in business, and I didn't really realize that that was like a thing, and what my dad was doing was so special. And so I ended up working with him for years and years and years. And then when that business ended, then I went out on my own 6 years ago. And now I'm doing something that is like, it is different. It is very different. It's very lean and mean, and it's just me. I don't employ a staff of people. It's a very, it's a solo enterprise for sure. But I do like, there are hearkenings back from my education with him, which was very like sink or swim, figure it out, adapt to what's going on, roll with the punches, learn it. There's no training manual. You got to figure this out. There's, if you want to get answers, there's a way over it. There's a way through it. There's a way around it. Creative people are the ones that are going to, get all the windfalls in the end. And he really instilled that in me. And then I just naturally employed that. After the business ended, I turned it into this hodgepodge of things that I'm now doing. Yeah. It's weird.
No, that's very interesting. So were you working, I guess, with your dad as like a kind of on the business, or
Yes.
were you like employed in a specific role?
Yeah, so I was basically running the business with him.
Okay.
So it was very entrepreneurial. Like I had very much all the latitude I needed. So I was wearing all the hats, although we did divide some of the labor. Like he was more in charge of finances and project management, and I was more in charge of marketing and hiring and inventory procurement. But we were definitely in it together, and we definitely saw the effects of every time we made a decision, there was a repercussion for the decision. And I learned that very early on. Like if I put out an ad and it's successful, this is what happens. If I do a buy that people like, this is what happens. When I fail, this is also what happens. And that entrepreneurial way of existing was like embedded in me, whether I was whether I actually owned the business, which I didn't, or not. I was still operating in that capacity.
So would you say you were naturally a risk taker, or it was the whole concept of being embedded into entrepreneurialism with your father?
Good question. Oh wow. I can't parse the two out now. My upbringing is so woven together with those two
nature
things.
versus nurture, I guess.
Yeah, it
There
is
you go.
nature versus nurture, right? But I always wanted to travel solo. I always had a kind of a high propensity for risk. I was like, I'll figure it out. I'll land on my feet. I'll figure it out when I get there. I'll do it, later, and it will probably be fine. And that way of looking at things, I don't know. I feel like that came from him, but who knows? Yeah.
Yeah. So once, I know you said like kind of the business, that past part of your life, that business kind of failed.
It did, yeah.
And that led you to starting your own entrepreneurial journey.
Yes.
Was that something, maybe, I don't know if you want to get into kind of how or why it failed, but what was that part of your life like when that you were going through that, and did it, you can just go into that,
Yeah, it was heart-wrenching. It was awful. It was 42 years in business, that company. If I knew the reason why it failed, it probably wouldn't have failed. Like, it was a bunch of little things, probably, a bunch of competitors eroding market share. We had a huge footprint of a business. It was like 22,000 square foot building, and it was just like we were sinking with the overhead and everything. And I just feel like we were outsized. We weren't big enough to be a big business. We weren't small enough to be operating like a small business. And things just started to crumble after like 2007, and just went down, kind of downward. So then when it finally did all come undone, and then I remember thinking, like, how am I going to exist in the world? Like, I don't even know who I am without this thing. And I did sort of start applying for jobs that were, like, I knew so many people in the industry, but it didn't feel right. People wanted to hire me, and I was like, actively trying to not get hired because I just knew like this is going to be bizarre. How am I going to I'm going to be in a job and like have a role and just work in this silo of things that I couldn't imagine it. And I was fortunate to cash out on my condo so I had some money to like be able to take a bit of a risk.
Yeah.
And here I am, and I'm glad I did. And I feel like if that is I didn't want that business to fail, and that was my dad and my parents' whole life, and it was awful. And so I wouldn't wish that on them. But what came out of it, like I have such a better life now. I can't believe my not fortune, but I just can't believe this second chapter looks so different than what it did before. We were working on that business a lot, and it was very all-consuming and very tragic. And now I do the things that I want to do and that resonate with me, and I have a little more. I'm lean and mean. It's just me. I don't have any overhead, and yeah, it's much better. I'm not carrying around a sack of guilt.
That's awesome. And I can imagine that being like super tough because something you've done pretty much that's all you've known until then, and now
yes,
it's
all I knew. Yeah.
And then when it's not there, you're like, what next?
Yeah.
Like it's I know like anytime I didn't face anything similar to that, but sometimes when you're like you've done something for a long time and now you can't do it anymore, it's almost like an identity crisis.
It is.
And so
grief.
Yeah. Form of grief.
Yeah.
And so that's a very tough situation to be in, but the fact that you took that and instead of seeing kind of like no roads ahead, you just saw endless possibilities. And was that kind of instant, or did you have to get to that point?
No. If I say it now, from looking back with kind eyes, it sounds like, I just saw all these possibilities, and I just silver linings everywhere. But those were dark days, you know, dark days. But then I don't know how it happened. Somehow I built up a resilience and somehow started to really realize that like my place in life and my value for being was intrinsic, and no one can take it away. Even if this business fails and things go another way, or a huge relationship collapses, like nobody can take me away from me. I'm still, there was some sort of, I probably always had it, but it was very strong in my bones. I could feel that my identity is not contingent upon anything. And I felt my dad's actually been super resilient through this, and I commend him because I feel like anyone else would have fallen apart. But I do feel bad about like that generation. Typically, like it was a major like identifier with like what you did, like you were that person in the society, in the community, and I just don't feel. I feel like, as a culture, I feel like we've moved away from that a little bit. Like I've moved away from it personally, but I also feel like as a culture, we've, people pick up all kinds of, are more willing to change and re-identify themselves and recalibrate and aren't beholden to the permissions that have been given to them from whatever work industry or whatever, silo that they're in. Don't you think?
I would say so. I think, for me, I did my schooling in business, and then I kind of moved into the tech space. And now I'm at a period of my life where I'm thinking of, okay, what next? But a lot of it stems down to, I see so many possibilities to change, where I feel like, as you mentioned, back in the day, it wouldn't be as easy.
More stigmatized or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
More stigmatized. And now it's okay, like, this is not working out, let me try that. Or let me try the other thing.
Right.
And I truly subscribe to that thought process as well, because I'm also the kind of person who gets bored pretty easily.
Me too. Yeah.
He knows. He's known me for a long time.
Which is why you guys have this whole endeavor along with your other work.
Exactly. But I don't know. I would say our personalities almost clash in some way, because the work I do and the way I've done it is quite structured to the point where I feel like I am from the prior generation.
No way.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
I'm a CPA, so I work in accounting. I got my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
If you ask me, do I like it? I'm like, obviously there's better days ahead, and I want to kind of shift moving forward. Yeah. But that's my line. I'm a subject matter expert, and then I see you guys quote unquote, like leading your own journey, thinking about the endless possibilities. And I'm like, maybe take a page out of that book, right?
Right. Yeah. I feel like there's a bit of a mix because I'll tell you a secret. I also am secretly jealous of people like you.
Oh boy. No jealousy here.
Because no, I am. I'm like, they're just like so all in. They've decided that this is what they want to do and they're doing it. And I feel like I can sometimes be a bit of a dilettante and flit to one thing and then the next thing.
Hey, but they do tell you what's the best form of investment? It's the diversification. So
nice.
Full
circle.
Exactly.
Yeah. Talk to the finance guy.
Yeah, I had to put that out there. But speaking of which, you kind of dived a bit deep into your thought process of, rediscovering yourself. But what did that actually look like? What was your first step of this self-made journey?
First step was an ex client of mine reached out basically instantaneously as soon as he heard the business ended and said, hey, do you want to do contract work for me and do freelance interior design work and do our social media, whatever. You're like, you're the best contact we have. Every time we buy anything from you, like you get back to us instantaneously, full service, all this stuff. And so it's funny because, I mean, I feel like he kind of chose for me. And because they were giving me so much business and I was driving a lot of income through this company, I was like, okay, I guess I'm this. Like, they're asking me to do this. They're not asking me to do it in an employee framework way. They're saying, invoice us every week. You can be contract. And I was like, oh, I guess I'm going to do this. But I'll tell you, to be honest, like, my heart does not sing when I do interior design client work. It's not like I can do it and I can have done it for so long, but it's not like my very favorite thing to do. But it is a way to make money and I am good at it. So I'm actually providing a valuable service and people like what I do. But if I'm really, really honest, it's not like, something I'm get up every morning like, oh, I can't wait to design this person's living room. Not really. So anyway, that he was, it's interesting because, he kind of drove the path of that next year for me without me really realizing that I had, let him do that, which nothing wrong with that. Yeah. It gave me this great income and exposure and everything. It was great. But that's how it looked in the beginning. And then I hired an intern from Sheridan College, an entrepreneurship program, and he was very business minded and he was great and he helped me and we started setting up the Soul Pro and creating a website and creating a brand, and I spent way too much time doing all the wrong things and spent forever trying to make this website, which is total shit now. And of course,
your current website?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I love the website.
Oh, thank you.
I thought it was really nice.
Oh, so many better things are coming down the pipeline. I'm working right now. Yeah, to redo it. So, but what I thought was good and I thought I was going to put so much work into, so naively, I was going to put so much work. I was going to go to Bali, buy all this interior design home goods that I loved, and then I was going to do all this work on this website. And then I was going to launch them on this website, and somehow the world was going to know who I was and start buying my stuff. And that's not how it works. And I was very disappointed. I should have spent, all of 2 weeks getting a site up and running, and the rest of it focusing on establishing my brand and marketing and getting out there. You can't just launch a website and expect people to come to it.
That's true.
So, but I was naive and I didn't know, and I spent a lot of time doing the wrong things. But I realized my intern would come to my apartment every morning, 8:00, never late, just he was on it, and he was not creative or anything. He was just super business focused and super pragmatic, and it was exactly what I needed because I was a little bit I wasn't good at staying on task, and he was good with that. I was good with the creative part, and in the early days we did things that I'm not even doing now, like furniture reupholstery and stuff. But I had to try a few things and see what worked, and yeah.
I definitely want to dive a bit deeper into that. Talk to me about traveling around the world to buy vintage furniture. How did that even come about?
So traveling around the world to buy the homewares, so not vintage, just new, so I'd go to the manufacturers in Bali and see what they were weaving, all these throws and blankets and pillows, and And I thought, oh, I have such a good buying eye. This is what I've done my whole life for like tiles and faucets and vanities and kitchens and all this stuff, right? And I thought, oh, this is what I'm good at. I'm good at picking. I'm going to pick the good stuff. And I picked a bunch of stuff, and it never sold, and I still have inventory. It's like years and years later. But I was like, okay, this is great. I'm going to spend time in the tropical countries, live really cheaply, travel around. Like I love traveling. I love the heat. I love meeting people, love solo traveling specifically. And I thought I would be able to, I worked remotely a bit while I was there. I thought I'd be able to keep that up a little more. I haven't been able to work as remote as I'd like. The vintage furniture piece, which is super local, super GTA based, keeps me like tied to the studio. So I have pieces coming in and out all the time. And I don't know how that started. I don't know how. I just picked up a few pieces for myself, started repainting them, flipped a couple on Marketplace, and I was like, wow, that was easy. And then I realized, oh my God, there's something here. This I'm actually picking well.
Yeah.
So then I realized that like whatever taste making ability I had in that realm was working. And I thought, okay, I'm going to just keep going. I kept buying things at low prices and flipping them for higher prices or repainting them, redoing them. And it worked. And who knew? It was just it was a small thing. It wasn't supposed to be this huge. And now this is actually what I'm mostly known for.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You never know what's going to take off.
Yeah, no, just hearing about that, that sounds like an amazing learning experience.
That was.
But I wanted to ask you, what was your main takeaway from that entire situation that allowed you to pivot into your next phase of your career?
Ooh. I don't know. I feel like what I was mostly doing at my dad's business was facilitating, mentoring, and making a business or developing a brand. It wasn't so much that I was picking cool tiles. So I was like, I want to really start getting paid for this facilitation piece, this piece about mentorship and brand development, even website creation, like all the social media management. This is all the stuff that I really was mostly doing in the business. And the actual tactile stuff, it was so easy to make money off of. There was no reason to ditch it, and I still don't have any reason to ditch it, and I love it actually. So, and that's what's brought me the exposure, because it's so visible and it's so creative and engaging and oddball sometimes. That's the ethos and like the visual palette that people associate with my brand. And oddly enough, sometimes people get driven in through that part, and then they hire me for something else, like mentorship, or attend one of my networking events, or come to my photo shoots, or whatever it is. So there has been like a lot of crossover. So I don't know how I really made that change. I feel like I'm still making it. I'm still trying to legitimize myself with more income that's coming in through the brand development side and not the interior design side. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm pretty interested in your, because you mentioned you love solo traveling.
I do.
How have you, I guess you kind of merged your business interests with your travel interests by going, trying to procure items from Bali.
Yeah.
Have you kind of stayed up with that, maybe come up with other business ideas that you can do remotely?
Well, I feel like that's the penchants. That's why I'm always trying to double down on this entrepreneurship side, because if I can work more in virtual mentorship, website creation, social media management, I can stay remote.
Yeah.
Right. If I have to keep doing things like the vintage furniture, then it's hard for me to pull away from my specific location in Toronto. So I'm very. It makes me so excited to try to add more pieces to my business that can be completely virtual, so that I can travel more for sure. I mean, that's
Working from Bali, it sounds like a dream.
It is a dream. Oh my God, there's this little city called Canggu that I spent most of my time in, and it's like, it's so many expats, it's so many remote workers like us, just sitting there on their laptops in these amazing outdoor restaurants during the day, and then like at 2:00, everybody packs up, goes to the beach, goes surfing, whatever.
Wow.
So it's like
That's awesome.
that's just like a rhythm of working, and it's super cheap. So.
Yeah, but Bali's really cheap. I saw a lot of people also do it from, because I went to Medellin, Colombia. There's a lot of expats who work out of there
Yes.
too. Yeah.
Oh, so you've been?
I've been to Colombia, yeah. I've always thought about it. You know, it wouldn't be super cool to just work from somewhere else. Because I work in tech, so I could do that if I wanted to. But my partner, my wife, she can't. She's in a profession where she has to stay in, so we're still trying to figure out what we can do.
Yeah. Oh.
But what are have you mainly worked out of Bali, or are there other places where you've?
For working, I think it was just mostly when I was in Bali. Everywhere else I've traveled, it was just to travel. Yeah.
What are your favorite places to travel, or what's your favorite place that you've been to?
I think Thailand is high on the list. Bali is very high on the list. I spent no, that's not true. So I've also worked a lot. I spent an extended time in Sayulita, Mexico, which is a little town near Puerto Vallarta. Yeah. And that is also a lot of Canadians. I actually kind of moved there, quote unquote, during COVID. So I was there for like 3 months, and I was hawking wares while I was there. So I realized that I could like start selling things that I saw at the market in Sayulita back on Instagram Lives to my Toronto followers. And it was working, and it was enabling me to like stay longer and longer because I was still like, I was making money while I was staying there. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I guess that kind of goes back into your like risk-taking personality and mindset. Although I don't know if solo traveling it's a risk for sure.
Yeah.
But it's also fun. You get that sense of adventure.
Yeah.
So what if for someone who wants to solo travel, what will be your piece of advice or kind of your takeaway for people who want to do that?
Solo traveling is a trip. And I'll tell you, I've traveled with a partner and I've traveled solo. And when you're not with anyone, you meet so many people.
For sure.
And you start to see that there's so many other people that are solo traveling, and they all want to meet people, make friends and stuff. Yeah. And you also meet locals so easily. It's just, it's such an easy, when you're by yourself, things just work out. You have to be the type of person that is not wanting to control your atmosphere or whatever all the time, because you don't know. You roll the dice. You don't know. I usually go to a place. I don't have things booked. Start knocking on doors. You see a little sign on a tree that says apartment for rent in some other language, and you meet this little nana in the street, and she brings you up to the apartment, and you're like, yeah, this sounds great. Like, you don't know. You don't even know if it's really hers. I mean, who knows? I mean, but I always, my mindset is like, most people are good. Things are generally going to work out. Yeah. My family mocks me because I always say, like, oh, I'm a child of the world. Like, I mean, they used to mock me, but now they, like, realize that, like, what I'm saying is that it usually people will take care of me. I ran out of money once in Rome. Somebody gave me money on a park bench. I've ran out of money. There was no ATMs in this small little town in Morocco. Somebody picked me up in this cab, and we shared this cab with like 7 people in a car, 7 strangers.
Wow.
Like,
those
just
shared taxis, right?
Shared taxi. Yeah, I was like, oh my God. But it doesn't. I mean, if you're open to it, I feel like you got to be open. And I don't know how you get to be like that person if you're not that person. I'm not sure how you make that leap. But I'm good. As long as I can get a shower and I feel relatively safe, I'm pretty much good anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it also teaches you, to be self-sufficient. Yeah. As you said, meet people. And that probably helps you back in Toronto as well, because then you can go talk to anyone.
It does, right? It's that same skill of just sort of like, hey, it's me. Like, let's see what I can learn from you and what you can learn from me. And, just this openness and this curiosity, and people respond to that. And also my authenticity, I feel like that's been a big boon for me. I've gotten praise about that, which is funny because that's honestly, it's just me. And I know some people are nervous to like show themselves or are more guarded, and I'm naturally not. So when you meet me, like, you do get, what you see is exactly what you get. There's no like subterfuge, no subtext. Like, this is exactly me. And I think that people in different countries as well respond to me because they don't feel off put or like nervous about me. I'm also 5 foot nothing girl. I mean, I'm not like that intimidating.
Oh man. Speaking of that authenticity. Sorry.
What?
What am I saying? Why am I coming up with an extra I?
You said authenticity.
Yeah, too many eyes. I want to go back to that part you were talking about, Instagram Live, and that to somewhere else. And if you have followers that quote unquote that you're based out of Toronto and now you're in Bali and you're doing an Instagram Live.
But that was in Mexico, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that was in Mexico.
Either way, but yeah,
Okay.
it was Mexico, yeah.
So you're doing Instagram Lives from a remote location that is not your home.
Yes.
How did that further your brand, and where did it take it to the next step?
That's a great question. It taught me that my brand was me. So I realized that I could pick up and go anywhere and it's still my brand. And at the beginning, I struggled a lot with being a multidisciplinary creative and like, how am I going to fit into a box? How am I going to have a concise, which I still struggle with, elevator pitch about what I am? People say, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I don't know how to answer this. I should probably craft something. But I realized that like, being this multi-hyphenate thing actually meant that I was a personal brand. And then I realized like that's what that is. It was okay to have all of these different things under one, because I was thinking, should I make different websites? Should I make different Instagrams? What is this? And then I had a few friends just telling me like, no, your brand is you. So it doesn't matter really what you're selling or doing. Just keep it all under your own thing. And that's what they taught me. I was like, wow, I could pick up, go to another country, decide to be a tastemaker there and sell things that weren't on the menu, quote unquote, before. And people responding to it and buying it. So I thought, okay, this just means I can pivot. This means I've got the agility that I need to like keep running my business. And I think that's like the best attribute that you can have as a person or as a small business owner.
Wow. Absolutely. I know you said you don't have this answer yet, but what is your brand?
I know.
If you had to describe it. Going you on the spot a bit.
Oh, good. Let me just open Chat GPT. My brand is me. It's creative entrepreneurship and services related to that for small brands, plus interior design and vintage furniture.
Yeah. Do I need to work on that a bit?
Yeah. It doesn't really roll off the tongue.
Oh, man. Talk about your creative process when it comes to now knowing that the denominator amongst your entire journey is you. It's your personal brand.
Yeah. It's very close to the heart. It's like in one way, it can be almost egomaniacal because you feel like, oh, maybe anything I touch will turn to gold. I just need to put my stamp on it, and people will respond to it. But you die by the same sword, because then when you do craft something new and nobody responds to it, nobody buys a ticket to your event, whatever the latest thing is that I do flops, it is so close to the heart. Like, I'm not robust. I do right away feel like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? What is, how can I recalibrate? And then I was like, this is a lot of energy. Like, I don't know if other people are expending this much energy in their day-to-day lives. I feel like I'm recalibrating all the time. And that's when I get jealous of people who have more of a defined work journey, because I feel like maybe you get up in the morning and like I do A, and then I'm supposed to do B, I'm supposed to do C, and then you like know what done is. And I'm like never done, and I'm always working and I'm always not working. And it's like this weird blend of, and I say that I love it. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I think I do, but I'm not really sure, actually. Listen to me question myself.
We're putting it through an existential crisis.
I am. You can see it happen. I'm like melting. Good thing you're videoing this.
Oh man.
Oh my god.
But it makes sense though. Like it's never. I feel like that's the thing about when you're trying to set your own path. It's just never defined. Like it's not even just a day to day. Like for some people, like if you have a set job on a day to day, you know what you're doing. But for some people, they also know kind of what career they want to build. Like I said, my partner's in medicine, and she's known she wants to do that for the rest of her life since she was a kid. So she's always had a direction for her life. Well, for me, it's always like, okay, what do I really want to do? Today I want to do this. Tomorrow I want to do that. But I don't like what I'm doing today. I might not like what I'm doing tomorrow. So it's always kind of trying to figure it out. So in that way, even for people who have the macro figured out, I'm also jealous of that.
Yes, very good point. So sorry, what did you go to school for?
Business.
Business.
Business, yeah.
But now you're in tech.
I'm in tech.
Specifically.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. But you feel like you're always sort of like wondering, wondering on a meta level, like, is this my alignment?
Exactly. Like what exactly. I figure out what's my brand maybe, or what's the core skill that I have that's gonna define the rest of my life. And I feel like that part's kind of hard to find. Maybe there isn't an answer.
I know. And how are some people so clear on it? And are they clear on it, or have they just not thought of it? I don't know.
That's a good
Or is that not a priority?
Maybe it isn't. Maybe you just feel so fulfilled in whatever you're doing that it's just like, I don't need to figure out anything else. But for me, I'm like, last weekend, I thought maybe I could be a DJ.
Right?
And we just happened to see a really good DJ. Yeah, he's actually one for that.
He's very stylish.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Well, that actually brings me, because I've been looking at this like Japanese concept Ikigai. Do you know this?
Oh yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
come on.
Come on, were you
He
guys
brought
talking
this
about?
up like 3 episodes ago.
I did,
like,
yeah. I did bring it up. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
maybe you tell me what is Ikigai?
Yeah.
It's
what is my Ikigai?
Yeah, it's trying to like figure out your life's purpose
Exactly.
through the intersection on a Venn diagram, through the intersection of like what you're good at, what is what the market wants or will pay for or will demand, what your actual skills are, and
I think the last one is what you enjoy.
What you enjoy, maybe. Yes. Yes. Because like they're not
Oh
all.
no, sorry, no. What you're good at and what you enjoy, I guess, kind of go together. And I think the last one was like, okay, what's something that's good for the world?
That's good for the world.
There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because not everybody wants to, maybe not everything you do is what the world wants. Maybe not everything that you do is what you like. Maybe not everything that you like is what the world wants. And it's when they all come together, it's like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's also another reason why I have a lot of different income streams, because some of them fulfill some of these pieces and some of them fulfill other pieces. I rent my studio out for film and photos and production and stuff like that. That is what the market wants. Yeah. It's not a particularly inventive or creative thing that plays to some amazing skill set that I have, but it's something that the market wants, right? And then I do my vintage furniture. That's something that I love doing. But when you find that intersection of all the things, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point, because I was thinking, okay, we need to find intersection, but maybe until you do, a good way to go about it is like, okay, pick all those different aspects. It could be 4 different things that you're doing, but at least you're still fulfilling that purpose somehow.
Right? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, through various ways. Yeah. So
that's an interesting point.
What were you guys talking about when you brought it up? Do you remember?
We were talking about setting goals for the year.
This was like a quote-unquote New Year episode, and he brought this concept.
So it wasn't actually 3 episodes. It was actually more like 3 months ago.
Right.
That's what it felt like.
But, we were talking about setting goals for the year, and my one was like figuring out my mission, or something that I care enough about that's also good for the world.
Yeah.
That I can really pursue and then eventually make money from and things like that.
Yeah.
So still haven't got to that. I still got to figure out what my mission is.
It's rumbling in there. Okay. Yeah.
I guess while we're on this topic, have you found your Ikigai, Sabrina?
Right now, it's a bucket of many things.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if there's one. There's no singularity or anything. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's also transient. I feel like from time to time, like certain years, certain things are more important. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, speaking of things that are important, I know like I saw one of your focus is like mentoring entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Kind of building up that community of entrepreneurs. What led to that?
loneliness, COVID, and like
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, I love being alone. I have no problem with that, but it is a lot of time alone, and I am like thinking things out, in my brain, in my four walls, nobody else to really pit ideas against, and I involve both my sisters actually, a lot in like business things, and I call them and ask them for feedback, and they're great. But I was like, there's got to be other people who are also like me, and I'm right downtown, and I keep running through my creative pursuits. I keep meeting all these different kinds of people, and it wasn't until I really stopped working at my dad's business, and it was really like I'd always lived downtown, but because I was working there and it was in Mississauga so much, I was never really enjoying like being immersed in downtown. I was like commuting in at the end of doing the reverse commute at the end of the night. It was so late, and just I didn't feel. Now I felt really embedded in the community, and I was coming across a lot of creatives, and I was like, wow, that's a job, that's a job, that's a job, that's so cool. You're a prop master, you're a set designer, you're a podcast editor, like all these job archetypes that I didn't even know existed, and I was always interested in the commonality was that we were like doing our own business. We were decentralized. We didn't have like a specific employer, and that common bond I found more interesting than anything. I wasn't interested in getting a whole bunch of interior designers or vintage sellers together in my apartment to chat. What I wanted was a whole bunch of people that were decentralized workers that were trying to carve their own way and bond on that commonality. And I launched the first like lunch at the loft networking event right after the rules opened up after COVID. I sold so many tickets. It was like people were dying to like get in person and come out and have a networking opportunity to meet other people. And I was just like, oh, this is making my heart sing. Like, this is what I like. And now I just had one a week ago, and it was a smaller one. I think it was only 9 of us, and it was such a good conversation. It was like 3 hours of such good conversation talking about our marketing problems and our problems where our family doesn't understand what we're doing, and our problems about, consistency or trying to find clients or whatever. And we're all in there together, and we're all, it was like, and now I've been marketing that event as like quote unquote group therapy for entrepreneurs.
Oh wow!
And people like it, yeah, because they're like, who else are we gonna talk to? Only the rest of us really understand.
Yeah, I feel like entrepreneurs are going to be the only ones who really understand what an entrepreneur has to go through.
Right?
Yeah.
And that not knowing that you're going to get money at the end of the week. Like, there's a real, like, unsettling feeling about it. Yeah.
I mean, it helps you can also bounce ideas off of each other in those sessions.
Yeah, collaborations have formed. Yeah. People have asked people for help with things, or like, it's great.
So for, I know for, let's say, entrepreneurs who are maybe solo or maybe even have like a small operation, do you think Toronto is like the core downtown is a place to be if you want to meet other like-minded people? And
I'm biased. I love downtown. I'll never leave. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I mean,
did you grow up in downtown?
No, I grew up in Mississauga.
Mississauga, okay. So you're from the West End.
I am from the West End, so I come by it honestly. Yeah. But I always knew I was gonna live downtown forever. I mean, yeah. So I don't know if that's. I mean, clearly you guys are doing cool stuff and you're out here, so.
No, I've always wanted to live in downtown, so.
Oh, interesting.
I feel like everybody needs that, a phase in their life where they live in downtown just to get it out of their system. Right. Whether it's, okay, I'm here for life, or, okay, now I got to bounce out to a suburb.
Yeah. Yes, that little, and you know what it is too? It's that, like, having that third place and just that walkability. And when I leave my place, I'm leaving on foot all the time. Yeah. And you have the opportunity to run into people, meet people, talk to people. Like I'm always on foot and going about in my little community. And it's just more, I don't know, like there's more possibilities. Sometimes when you're in the burbs and you get from your very detached house to your car to wherever you're going, like it's just a unis. And that is, but I also don't have a partner, you know what I mean? I don't have I don't have a husband. Yeah. And I feel like that's different. So if you have comrade at home, that is a little bit different. I feel like I need to be downtown because I need to be embedded in people.
Right.
Yeah.
I find like the downtown, the energy is just different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And downtown people I find people are ambitious usually, and people are more out and about, and you get to meet so many different kinds of cool people.
Very much so, yeah.
And for us to meet cool people in Oakville, you have to start a whole podcast.
Come down to my podcast.
Just want to go back to the whole mentorship and coaching. Now that's a full-fledged business line that you have going.
It is, yes.
What does that mean in terms of like, how do you identify a client, and how do you go about what they need and what you can bring to the table, and then obviously the result at the end, which is added value?
Yeah. I feel like right now, I was just talking about this with somebody at one of my networking events. I feel like the best clients right now for me are the ones that come by way of being magnetized to me. So if they're seeing what I'm putting out on Instagram and they're a fan, they are in my network in some way, and they're asking me for my help, that's already the best start for me. I'm less of a good match for someone if I'm pitching my services to them, because then I'm one of several, and they're not wanting to work with me because it's me. They're wanting to work with me because I'm a service provider that does X, Y, and Z. And it just isn't. I really rely on that self-vetting. So I really rely on them coming to me. Maybe it doesn't sound like a very good scalable, businessy way to approach things, but right now it's all I need. So I don't need a huge bucket of people to work with. I need the right people to work with. But I do get nervous every time I onboard a client that I'm not going to be able to give them, the perfect advice. But in the back of my mind, I always know too, like there's no, if this was 100% teachable, then everyone would be doing it. And it'd be all formulaic, and we'd all be like checking our box that this is what we're doing. I mean, it has a coaching piece to it. It has a piece where, I'm, maybe giving them permission, helping them explore, helping them talk things through, using an Ikigai Venn diagram to help them understand what their alignment is. And, it's very Socratic, and it's very organic, and it is sort of like therapy. I'm definitely not a therapist, but it is sort of like that. It's more like that than like a doctrine. Like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this, this, and this. And then by the end of, 2 months, you're going to have 10,000 followers. And it's not like that. It's more on the, like, how to be a human and run a business, and how to have them marry up, and how to figure out where your business fits in the market, what your brand really is, what your brand voice really is. And then we will do tactile things like website creation or social media management. Like, that's fine too. But the mentorship piece is more of a Socratic or therapy type of a dialogue. Because I feel like there's so many people that have small businesses all like in Toronto. It's crazy. Like, everybody, I don't know if COVID really started this boon, but like everybody's also, and I make jewelry, and I do copywriting, and have a podcast, and I'm doing this. Like, there's so many people that are running their little small business as either a side hustle or a freelancer or an entrepreneur. And nobody really knows what they're doing, and we could all use a sounding board. And that's my very favorite thing to do, is think these things through with people. There's also a piece where there is a magic, charming piece that can't be taught. So I get nervous when I come up against that. Like, if I feel like, I don't know if they're going to be able to do this. Like, this is, maybe there's the alignment is not there, and that's the magic I'm talking about. I'm not sure, but yeah, I get nervous and try to help you. Everyone I've helped has been very grateful, and we've gotten further ahead in their journey, and I've had all positive results so far, but you never know.
Wow. Yeah. Just to pick your brain a bit, at a high level, what if someone comes to Sabrina and they want to quote unquote, discuss their branding or marketing strategy, what are some of those key elements that you really try to focus on when creating their brand identity?
What their unique message is, like how they fit in the market. So understanding who their competitors are, sorry, and what their unique value proposition is, and then how we can get out with unique messaging to that avail. The struggle I feel a lot with creatives is not everybody wants to is enthused to have a business. People come to entrepreneurship in two ways. This is my theory. They either come because they want to be an entrepreneur and have a business like me, and it doesn't really matter. And if you gave me copper pipe, I would sell copper pipe. I really don't care what it is. If you gave me screwdrivers, I'd sell that. And some people come to it naturally through their heart, through the exact thing that they're doing. So they really wanted to make that jewelry. They really wanted to sell those glasses, whatever it is. And now they're a little bit irked that they need to do all these businessy things because they just want to do their freaking thing. They just want to make their beautiful jewelry. And they're like, oh my God, now I need to do Instagram. Now I need to talk about my thing. Now I need to meet people. Now I need to network. Now I need to, get a booth at a market. Now I need to, so there is that, there's a lot of, I feel like a lot of the work I do ends up with those kind of people where they are almost artists in a bigger sense of the word. And they're like, how do I package this up into a business? This is where I need help. And then that's when I start, being the voice of the community and saying, well, if I was a client, how would I, react with your product? Is there some market fit here? Yeah.
That's amazing. You know why? Because on social media, you see a lot of accounts or a lot of people just throwing out, okay, hey, start this business, this and that, and they give you the monetary goal attached to it, any other result. The key, that's only half the equation. The other half is, okay, how am I actually going to do the business?
Yes. Yeah. And how am I going to set aside time for it? And how am I going to do it when my partner doesn't really believe in what I'm doing? And how am I going to do it financially? And how am I going to... create something that's packaged up and intelligible from something that's just fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Does it ever get when you try to focus on the business, and I think maybe this is more for people who are in the creative side of things. Does it get not fun when you have to focus on the business side of things, and it's like, okay, maybe I just don't want to do this anymore?
For them or for me?
I'm bucketing you in there too because you're also a creative entrepreneur.
Yeah. Does it ever get not fun? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then sometimes for example, a psychotherapist just hired me to launch her Instagram because she has this is not a new business. She has an established practice. She's making good money. She has a full client roster. She wants to diversify a little bit and start doing these group events that are focused on polyamory or whatever. And so that's something that's a little bit different for her, but really day to day, she has her hours filled and she's charging a good rate. So she has the income already. The business is established, but she's like, I don't want to spend time figuring out what my graphics are going to be in Canva and how I'm going to come up with this pretty Instagram that's going to look good and advertise this event in a way that is going to resonate to the right people and post in all these Facebook groups. She can't be bothered. She's like, that's what she's going to outsource it to me, right? Yeah. And say that's not. And so I would say to your question, that part is not fun for her. The therapy is fun. That's what she wanted to do, and that's what she's doing. She's not looking to make graphics on Canva, right? Yeah. So if you're lucky enough to be in a better financial situation like she is, then you can outsource it. If you can't yet because you're still in the infancy stages, then that's when it becomes a little bit frustrating for people because then they're like, I already didn't want to do it. I don't have time to do this, but I have to try to hustle to get new clients. And now I'm having to deal with the marketing piece of it as well as do the thing, paint the picture, whatever they're doing, right?
There you go. So if you're if you're an entrepreneur who's not having fun, reach out to Sabrina.
Yes, I'll do all that.
Yeah. So just to jump off of that a bit, what would you say as someone who's been in entrepreneurship now for a little while? What would you say is, and you've touched on this throughout our discussion so far, what would you say is the most, I guess, rewarding part of it? And what would you say is the most challenging part of it?
The most rewarding part is that everything I do, I see the fruits of my labor. So when something it goes well, and that could be making a sale, making a contact, making someone happy, inventing something unique, even just taking a gorgeous picture of a couch paired with the right carpet, paired with the right whatever. And I'm like, I did that. Like, no one else did it. This did not come into being. This did not exist before I did it. I did it. And I did it pretty much from start to finish. I generally don't have too much help. Right now I have an intern that's helping me out. But for the most part, whatever I put into the universe is like organically from my soul. And that is like immensely rewarding. Because like to create something that was never existed before. I just put together a pitch deck this morning, and I slaved over it, and I was like, oh, I'm so proud of this. Like, I did this. Anyway, that's the best part. The worst part is but I also am a sucker for it, is the unpredictability. So, you know, when you look at your bank account and you're like, I'm not sure this month. This is interesting. This is a fun game we're playing. That's not great. And that instability can then permeate into the rest of your life. And it's not like, it's probably not the healthiest way to live. The unpredictability. And like it's like gambling. Sometimes you're so up in terms of, I don't just mean financially, but like one day it's like you get this amazing text message and then a review, and then someone's, you know, thanking you for something you did like last week, and then you sell 2 things and you're like, I am killing it. Wow, look at me. And then the next day it's like you look at your phone 1,000 times, you're like, nobody wants to talk to me. Nobody has responded to the reel that I just put my heart and soul into. Nobody. I maybe I don't exist. Maybe I'm not relevant anymore. I should throw it all away. I should hang it up. That's it. It's over. Yeah. And I mean, who lives like that, right? Like every day is like.
Yeah. That unpredictability is tough. Like I've heard of stories of people, let's say, who have employees, for example, crying themselves to sleep because they don't know if they're going to be able to pay their employees tomorrow. And I think that's a super tough position to be in, because at that point you're not just responsible for yourself, you're also responsible for all these other people.
Yes.
And I don't envy that position at all.
I know. That's why I've never put myself now in that position again. Yeah. With all that overhead, I've seen what happened with my family business. I will never want to be responsible for anyone else. So, yeah.
Is that does that go into your, I guess, decision to try to stay as lean and solo as possible, kind of rely on yourself mostly and not work with too many other people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to scale up. I don't want to onboard anyone. I don't want to be responsible for anyone. I don't want to take on any external studio space. Like, it's me, it's my show, and if I can make this fly, great. I don't need $1 bajillion to be happy. I need what I need, and I'm not interested in exposing myself to the risk for employees, for other people. For sure, no, that's not on my agenda. No, it's definitely informed my decision on staying lean and mean. Yeah.
I think one thing we can all come to a consensus with this conversation is the thing that is on your agenda is to continue to grow that personal brand of yours, right?
Yes.
You've created various types of content on various types of platforms. So what would be, main tips or advice for people that want to produce engaging and viral content?
Ooh. I think back to authenticity. I think I just saw a meme actually, and it was like something about if you're hiring a content creator to do something, like you're hiring an artist, you're not hiring a puppet. And it's so true. Like you can't ask people, you can't try to do something that you think that the brand is going to like, or was in vain with everything else that they're doing. You have to just do the content that you would do, and it either, again, self-vets. Either people come to you and say, I like the stuff that you do. Please come up with something for us, and then they let you loose, and that's the best game to be in. I have a couple of brand partnerships that I'm like that with right now with Aberfoyle Market and the Sunday Variety Market, and they let me do what I'm doing. And they say, give me a couple of reels, and I go to town, and it's in my spirit. It can only be in my spirit, and I don't subscribe to like trends and stuff. I don't do cool music. I just do what works for me and my vibe. And when people are hiring a personal brand, they're kind of that they should be expecting that that's what they're going to get, is whatever's in line with that person's persona. You can't really, try to be someone else. I mean, it's just, I'm monetary. I mean, but that's not a be all end all answer to the question though, because monetarily, maybe that does work for people. I'm sure it does.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I'm missing out on a bunch of stuff.
I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, but then I think I think through this conversation, what I realized is your freedom is obviously very important to you. And being authentic is very important to you.
Yeah, you're right.
And whatever you do, it's kind of through that lens, and that's very commendable because
Thanks.
I think no matter how much money you can make or how much better a deal might be, if you're compromising on that freedom that you've worked so hard to safeguard, then you're not going to be any much happier, no matter how much money you make. Yeah.
You're so right. I've never labeled it like that, but you're totally right. That's the word. It's the freedom. Yeah. And I feel like, what is it? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like everybody's, I think, structures their hierarchy a little bit different. And probably near the top for me is like curiosity and freedom and love. I also put like a huge part of my ethos is that I love being either in a relationship. I love my which I'm not, ironically. That's the world's twist of fate right now. But I love that, and I love my family, and that's super important to me. I've never been the person that was like, I'm going to be the successful person and I'm going to rise to the top and it's all about that. Like if I ultimately had to choose, I would choose an amazing partnership over probably everything. So that's the honest truth of it. I'm a sucker. Yeah.
Hopefully that's coming your way.
Yeah, thank you.
Putting it out into the universe.
Yes, put it out there.
I think I wanted to go back to this. Do you want to walk us through any success story of where you've transformed a client's business from the branding and marketing strategy perspective?
Ooh, sure. I'm trying to think, which one should we talk about?
There's way too many.
Yeah, there you go. It's a good problem to have.
For anyone who's listening.
Right? I think, I don't know, it's a cross between, maybe the Renovators. I think the Renovators, I think we did such a good job of figuring out how to show that they're like a custom, like a bespoke renovation company. And we did such a good job of how to figure out how to present what they do, and that it is truly bespoke to the right clientele, and started to grow their Instagram audience and redid their website. And we really started to look at, you know what else was a reason that it was successful is that the delta between it and other people in that space, there's a lot of people in that space that are just not good at that kind of thing. So naturally, just with a little bit of work and a little bit of a brand voice and a little bit of the right messaging, it really started to look like something kitted up and beautiful and also a little bit distinct, just with a little bit of work without even going nuts. I've had the opportunity to work with people who have had more oddball brands, like a a woman that was doing her own specialty desserts, and she was turning it into like a food truck, and it was very interesting and quirky, and she was quirky, and her whole ethos lent itself to it being very. I could see what she was in our brand, and I could transform that in her online presence. It was very easy to make it super distinct, but I think I was more proud about the renovators, about the custom renovating company, because that space is more littered with people, and it really, when we were done with that brand, like it really stuck out as something different and legitimized, and it was legitimately. A fantastic company. So we represented it well. So I was happy. Yeah.
Perceptions that you think people may have when it comes to marketing and branding strategies, given we're in this age of, social media?
Common misconceptions? Yeah, that I guess that trends are the be all end all. Yeah, everybody's just so concerned with looking like what they think the thing should look like. And sometimes I even fall into that trap, and I even feel vestiges of my old life hearkening back to me. And I mean, although we were working in an entrepreneurial capacity, it was still like a showroom with people and vendors and clients and people that we were beholden to. And like, I had to dress a certain way, and I had to have a certain, and now I have to like remind myself, like, I don't need to dress up for a meeting. I'm going to bring myself the way I am, and that's it. This is the end of this story. So why did I say this? Because, there's these expectations that I feel like people bring with them that it is like, you should be. And the marketing for this type of industry should look like this. This is what all the other ones look like, and so it should be intelligible in this way. But I feel like there's infinite possibilities, and I mean, dare to be curious. Holy cow! There's so many, and dare to be a little bit authentic. This is why also it's hard for me to work with bigger brands, because I don't have that like. I don't have that ethos. I also don't have any experience in corporate or anything like that. So I don't really know. It's especially when I'm dealing with a smaller brand, I can really understand the identity of the person behind it, or the duo behind it, or the small team behind it, and then we can infuse, exactly the messaging that they want to say in their brand, and it ends up looking very unique. But But people are nervous to do that, because when you start asking them and getting into dialogue about these things, to pull some information out of them to create the copy for the marketing, they start talking in platitudes or in cliches or in things that they think they've heard from other people in the similar industry, right? And it just, that's like a big no-no for me. This is why I struggle with my website, actually, my new website that I'm launching. I'm struggling with the copy of it so much, because my voice specifically is so important to me, and I know all the ways that I don't want it to sound, and I'm really having a hard time honing in to how I do want it to sound. It can't sound salesy, it can't sound lowbrow, it can't sound too colloquial, it can't sound too fun, it can't sound too preachy. I have a bunch of can'ts, and then to actually create that into a voice of what it is, I struggle with this, but I put so much importance into it, because when you're reading copy, like, you're inferring tone and you're inferring personality, and it needs to sound like me, who's, intelligent, slightly offside, super down to earth, and aesthetically focused or whatever. So, how do I put that into copy? That translating that into copy is so important to me, because it's the individuality piece, and that's the piece that I feel like people are most afraid of and missing. And when you can do it well for a brand, you have like such good success.
No, that's really great insight, because I think there's a lot of tools and resources online that give you a structured way to get to a certain point. but in the midst of that, you may miss the originality and tailored component to it. So keeping that in place and knowing that might be the sustainable force that takes you through to whatever endeavor you have, that's great.
It's your ticket. Yeah, it's your ticket.
At the end of the day, I guess, the main message is be authentic, be you. That's also the advice I get for any interviews or anything like that. But it's kind of hard to do, though, like especially when you're trying to figure out, okay, what am I? What's the authentic version of me look like? You sound like you kind of have figured that out because you. Yeah,
I have.
You have. You mentioned a lot of what makes you you.
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of people, the challenge is figuring out what makes you or what makes me me.
Yes.
And then move from there into creating a brand. Yeah.
You're right. It's kind of like the two pieces of it. It's figuring out what is you, and then being okay to just like put it out there and let it lie. And people got to rock and roll with what you just put out, and it's all you. And it's like it's very vulnerable place to be, right? Because then you put it out there, and people either love it or they don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
But I think you will always get that. You will always get, not mixed emotions, but several emotions. But I think the ability for someone to mold and adapt to what you're receiving and then tailor it and then put it back out into a form that may be more receptive, I think that's key.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Multi-level.
We've talked about entrepreneurship quite a lot. And if I know a lot of people that maybe listen to us or watch us, and our friends are all aspiring entrepreneurs.
Oh, cool.
A lot of them are. And so what's a piece of advice you would give people who are aspiring entrepreneurs? And this could be kind of anything. And two is, what do you think the most important skill is for an entrepreneur to develop?
The skill question is easy. It's agility, 100%. 100%. It's the ability to react and reinvent and go with whatever is being thrown at you. That is, I feel like, the number one skill. And that is how doors get opened up, and that is how, like, you keep room for possibility by being agile and not being so set that what you thought was going to happen that day or with that client or in that paradigm might not happen, and something more beautiful might happen. And if you don't keep that possibility open, then I feel like that's just, I don't know how you can quote unquote entrepreneur without that skill, because it's just, we seem to rub up against it every day. So I'll say that. And the other question was, what is my advice for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yep.
I guess is to be quick to legitimize what you're doing, even if right away what you're doing isn't generating money. You can't always demand that what you're. I mean, by definition, yes, an entrepreneur, it is a business. It's not, and I guess I'm talking more about creative entrepreneurs. But you don't always, just by the fact that you haven't like made that sale or made that money yet, doesn't mean that it's not a business or on its way to being a business. And the faster that you kind of take ownership of the fact that this is the paradigm that I'm in. I am an aspiring entrepreneur, and you might as well just call it an entrepreneur, because all of it is, even the infancy stages, even the ruminating, even the the planning and the ideating and the talking to your partner and all that stuff, it's all part of it. And I do feel like for a while, I've talked about this before. I talked about this on the other podcast I was on. My family is like amazing. They're so amazing. There's just like the most supportive network of people. All my extended family, it's like ridiculous. We're like from a TV show. But even them, when I was first doing this, it was like years, like nobody asked me about it. Nobody knew what I was doing, and I wasn't cloaked about it, but it just seemed like they didn't know what to say. They didn't know what I was doing, really. They couldn't really understand it, and they were just like, I don't know. Like, I think they were just nervous for me, and they didn't know how to put this in their mind. Like, what is she doing? We don't know. I don't really know. Like, and nobody talked about it, and I feel like it took a long time for me to legitimize myself, because nobody was like echoing it back to me that I was really doing a thing. Like, meanwhile, I had hired an intern. We were doing this thing. We were building this thing, and it didn't really matter to them. I might as well have been, I don't know, tinkering in the garden or something. It's like they weren't. So I really would have liked to have this more fortitude for myself, to have anointed myself as an entrepreneur faster, instead of waiting for the rest of the world to echo it back to me and say, that is what you are. Yeah.
That is awesome, because I feel that way, and I think maybe I can start calling myself an entrepreneur.
There you go.
Yeah, sometimes you have to just manifest it. And I think that's a key trait of entrepreneurs, resilience, right?
Yes. Yes.
And even more for yourself, I think amazing trajectory, given the fact that at one point in time you realize what you were doing is creating a brand for yourself. And that is the selling point, as opposed to the business lines, which are a byproduct of it.
Yes.
So that's amazing.
Anything else from you?
No, I think that was my last question because I remembered it.
All right, perfect. All right, and I have nothing else. Again, loved the conversation, Sabrina. Is there anything that you would like to plug? Anything that you would like to talk about while you have the mic?
Oh, fantastic. Well, since you guys are local, yeah, so I do that Coffee with Creatives, which is my networking event once a month. And that is, like I said, where I find all my people. That's like my way to really connect with the solopreneurs and creative entrepreneurs of the community. So you can always buy a ticket for that. It's on my website. There's tickets all the time. And we do branding headshots as well every month. That's a separate endeavor. Everybody needs good photos. But really, I just want people to check out my Instagram. And if you feel an alignment, and you feel so called to follow, then I am eternally grateful.
Yeah, and that's at Sunday Creative.
Yes, at _Sunday Creative.
At _Sunday Creative. We'll also link it in our show description, our episode description.
Yeah.
So hopefully people will be checking you out, and we will join the networking event, hopefully.
Hey, we will join the headshot.
You
yes.
guys do need, yeah.
Yeah, we need some good headshots.
That'd be
100%.
so cool. Oh, I
Yeah.
could see a styly. Oh, yeah.
Maybe you can start with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love what you guys are doing, and I'm so grateful to be on here. And this conversation was so great. Like, you guys this is a robust conversation. You guys should be proud. This is amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we love having conversation. We loved our conversation with you. I know you came all the way down here again from downtown Toronto.
Yeah.
So it's not in Toronto traffic. It's never easy to come out here. So we really appreciate you coming down. Really appreciate all the insights you gave to our audience and to us as well. As you said, it's almost like group therapy. So that was fun.
Yeah.
And looking forward to doing more of that.
Sounds
Hopefully
good.
at the networking event.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you so much again. Tuning out, myself, Salvi. We got Naveed, and we got our great and awesome and amazing guest for today, Sabrina. Please do check her out. And with that, we are out.